Hey, what is up? This is James of Humans of Magic. You are listening to my interview with Kyle and Terren Huck. The Huck brothers created Apex Gaming, and this is, in my opinion, the next big thing in Magic regional coverage in the United States. In fact, I felt so strongly about this that after interviewing the Huck brothers, I went ahead and created a 30-minute documentary on my YouTube channel about Apex Gaming. This interview is going to be the unedited version, just straight up conversation with the Huck brothers. For the documentary, I went ahead and interviewed people around Apex Gaming, players, creators who have been to their events, just to get a more 360-degree kind of view. So definitely check that out if you have the chance. They're kind of two pieces of things that stand alone. One is this uncut interview. The other one is a more curated version of the Apex Gaming story. They kind of both tell the story from different angles, so I really appreciate it if you could check both of them out. And this is actually part of what I'm trying to do this year for Humans of Magic, is really branch out the audio podcast from the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is going to have its own thing. It's going to have more curated content. It's going to have things that honestly just work better on YouTube. The podcast version is still going to be where you get these long form interviews. I know a lot of you enjoy it, so that's not going away anytime soon, but I'm just trying to use the different channels for different things. As always, I super appreciate all the support you give into Humans of Magic, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Again, I think Apex Gaming is the next big thing in regional Magic tournament coverage. You can be the judge, time will tell, and I just had a lot of fun doing this interview, so enjoy. All right, we are live. No, actually not really. We're not really live, but we are here today on Humans of Magic with two wonderful Humans of Magic, the representatives of Apex Gaming, Kyle and Terren Huck. How are you guys doing?
Going really good. How are you?
Going well. I mean, we're actually in a somewhat related time zone now because I'm actually in Canada on the West Coast for these couple days. So it's nice to actually record with people on the same continent, I guess. Yeah.
and here I was thinking you were 12-hour difference, so gotcha.
No. Fortunately, I'm over the jet lag of like going halfway around the world. I'm on the West Coast today, so I'm doing really, really well, and hopefully you guys are doing well as well. Why don't we kick things off? I want to just have you guys do kind of a brief introduction. I know that Kyle and Terren, you play different roles with Apex Gaming, so can you just briefly tell us who you are and maybe the role that you have with the company?
Well, Kyle and I are co-owners. We sort of came up with the idea for Apex and started it together. But Kyle's much more of the financial backing of it, though. I'm more of tagging along that way, but that's okay. I handle social media and the streaming and things like that, like marketing, like helping out with that. We do have like a manager in store that kind of helps out and does a lot of that stuff. That's mostly what I do specifically at Apex.
I kind of handle the business end of everything, kind of make the policies and procedures and kind of how we operate, and then obviously go over that with the team and get everybody's input. And then I kind of help, handle personnel and all of that kind of stuff. Most of what we do, we just kind of do together and set everything up and, kind of just roll that boulder up the hill.
What's the story of how Apex started? Because I understand the two of you are brothers, and you have been coming in from a non-Magic space. I guess everyone comes in from a non-Magic space, right? You're not born with Magic the Gathering, but I want to tell me the story of how Apex Gaming started.
So I've played Magic since around 98, 99, 2000. And then I'm actually 13 years older than Terren. He's my younger brother. And I went off to college and kind of sold my cards and got out of college and got back into Magic a little bit and didn't really have anybody to play the game with. So put my cards up in the closet and, that was kind of it. Well, then Terren got into high school and said, "Hey, Kyle, get your cards out." And so then I started playing with him, and we've been playing the game ever since. And that's kind of how we got into Magic. But then Terren actually is the one that kind of came to me and said, "Hey, let's do a card shop." And it started, I think, Terren, you went to like San Francisco or something. Then you got to the West Coast and you saw internet cafe type place, right?
Yeah, I went out there for like it was like a I was in college for computer science and it was like a cybersecurity conference and I saw some of those like internet cafes and I just knew there was like in our area it's a little more rural, but there was still population centers and then still places where people like didn't have internet, like and like some kind of underprivileged areas, where people might not have nice setups and things like that. So my the original idea was sort of like an esports, and esports was kind of like this was back in like what 2017 2018. It was a little bit of a newer thing.
Yeah.
It was still really popular for a while at that point, but anyways, like schools and places were starting to get into it. Like a lot of local schools were starting to have esports programs. So originally, the original concept for Apex had like 20 computers in it and like 10 Xboxes and things like that. And we were a card shop. That was the other idea. We were also a little bit kind of displeased with the quality and the convenience of the local card stores in our area. You had to go like 45 minutes to just get to a card store. And none of them were that great in our opinion. Not to throw shade at them or anything. I think they were just doing what they could, but we wanted to do like a really nice place, which we've gotten WPN Premium now, and we're really proud of our shop. So
very much so.
What was it like to initially formulate a Magic store? Because I think from talking to Kyle before, like there were some interesting decisions you made along the way before day one of Apex, right? Like, can you talk a bit about like what it's like? I mean, I understand that you also come from a kind of a business background where you also have been running other types of businesses, and what is it like to like be like on the ground floor of creating a Magic retail store or a Magic thing?
It's exciting because you're really kind of creating the book. You're kind of making it up as you go along and figuring out what works and what works for you and your methodology. With that, though, comes a lot of failures and then a lot of successes, and you build on the successes and refocus the failures. I do come from a business background. I own several other businesses, some restaurant, some regular just retail pharmacy, some other things like that. So I do come from a business management and accounting background. And really, like as far as Apex goes, a few things that we did is we sat down and said, what are some key things that we want to do, that we're going to do? And I think one of the number one rules we came up with is we're going to make an offer on every card that comes in. One of my pet peeves is going to a store and not being able to sell your cards. It's kind of frustrating. I totally get it. I understand. I'm not, again, like Terren said, we don't want to throw shade at any other store because they, maybe don't have the financial backing or whatever, and there's obviously very good reasons not to do that. I just think that it makes for a better community if stores are able to buy cards. So that was one of our major things, is to have a buy policy that encompasses being able to buy everything that comes in, or at least make a reasonable offer, I should say. The other thing was the quality of the shop. We really felt that everything had to be nice. Need to upscale, where you're going into. Nice floors, nice walls, remodeled space, wood tables, nice restaurant style padded chairs. So just wanted to keep it really nice. And those were kind of our two starting points.
Everyone's gone into the Magic store where it's like you feel a little like embarrassed to be there just because of the overall appearance of it and quality of it. And like a lot of other retail stores don't really get away with that in the same way. And so we just didn't want it to turn into like just a club or something where just like a few guys hang out. Like we wanted it to be like really open and clean and welcoming to all, and like children can feel safe there, parents can feel safe taking their kids there, and everyone can have like a good fun time in like a nice environment.
Were there any particular models or like templates that you took or inspiration from existing spaces or businesses, or are we just talking about like let's try to be like a a Starbucks, or let's try to like be an actual legit. Because I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys have any inspiration from somewhere, or it's just sort of like you have your baseline standards from the get go about like something to as a point of comparison, perhaps.
I was gonna say, I would say just from, because I also helped like manage Kyle's restaurants for a little bit. But I would say just from, having like restaurant experience, and like we also looked online, and we obviously we're Magic players. We travel around to quite a few Magic shops, for different things. So, and we looked online at some WPN Premium stores to kind of see what they were doing, and we, got a feel for it, and we were like, yeah, we really like this look of like making everything premium looking and feeling, and that's definitely like the way we want to go with this. If we're gonna do it, if we're gonna mess with it at all, definitely go on the higher end and invest. I say invest. It's mostly Kyle's money.
Did it feel like a risk though to start a Magic related business? Now, mind you, you mentioned this was 2017-18, so this is go back in time. This is pre-pandemic, right? So, was it a slam dunk, or was it difficult? Like what I know about starting a restaurant, like it's just a grind, and it's very hard to become profitable or become a legit business. Like, how did it feel at the time, and maybe for the first year or two?
So I can definitely answer this question. It did not feel like a great risk. So first and foremost, I basically am in the real estate business, and I own the building that we're in. And remodeling a section of our building and making it very, very nice, all of that money that I would put into that, all the finance that I would put into that, I would get back in equity. So that's as far as a business decision there goes, that remodel didn't bother me at all, because I would just be able to rent that space to somebody else if Apex didn't occupy it. As far as the investment into the inventory and the investment into the computers and some of the other things we did, there was a little bit of risk tolerance there. It wasn't a huge chunk of money, but at the same time, I knew that, for example, the esports part really didn't work out after COVID. It actually started to take off. We were doing okay with it. But after COVID, the esports just gone. It just went downhill, never came back. And so we sold, all of the computers that we had, all the PlayStations, Xboxes. We remodeled the store again, and kind of changed everything around, expanded our retail. But that's the risk tolerance. But I knew going in that everything that we were doing, I would be able to sell the cards we were buying for inventory. I would be able to sell the computers, at a loss, but still not a huge risk for what we were putting in. That being said, it's still not nothing. It was just that my risk tolerance to doing it wasn't averse.
Another aspect of this question is, was it fairly easy to attract a player base? Because obviously you guys are now, as I understand it, like the second biggest attraction in Caldwell, Ohio. So you are not just game store, but just like you are like a destination spot now. But in the beginning, was it difficult to recruit gamers and players to come to the store? What kinds of things did you do? Just give me an idea, because I've never been to Caldwell. I hope I can visit in the future, but I mean, just lay it out for me. Like, how do you do the sales and marketing, and how do you get people into the store?
Well, first of all, we would love to have you. So if you can ever come out, let us know. We would love to have you. As far as attracting players, I think that comes from our passion for running competitive tournaments, and that's what really brings the players to our area. Trying to run really good tournaments with really good payouts, and treating the player base with as much respect as we can, and that makes players come. I mean, we have players. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and we have. Will Hall's been here from the UK. Young Dingo has been out here from California to multiple tournaments. You're not getting players to come. Not to mention most of our local players drive an hour to 2+, and a lot of them come 6 hours regularly playing our big tournaments. So I mean but running really good tournaments, in my opinion, is what brings them down, to our shop.
Yeah, if there's one thing Midwest people are used to, it's driving long distances. So, for
True.
when we do like monthly or every so often the bigger competitive kind of convention style weekends, like people really like to travel out to those and they'll get hotels and stay. But then for our more local player base, there was kind of a shop that was sort of on its way out that was kind of local. And a lot of those players, kind of came over to us, and we had several players that were, just our friends and stuff that we played with, that sort of helped, be patrons basically when we opened the shop. So, and then we've attracted a lot of, new players or people. There's tons of people that just like, oh, I play Magic. I played Commander around the kitchen table with my buddies for years now or whatever, and then they see your shop and they stop in, and there's Magic everywhere.
Yeah.
So it does seem like having a very nice space has you been able to convert kitchen table Magic players to actually come by and play in a tournament or just partake in some way. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that's something that basically every player that walks into our store says is like, wow, this is nice. Like, I didn't know this was down here. It's kind of verbatim what everyone says when they walk in. But yeah, I think we've sort of made it like, we have command zone passes for when we do our like convention style weekends, and people can buy into the command zone and they earn tickets and can go get something from the prize wall. So it really, I think we've made it fun on the more casual side of things. It's a fun weekend for those more casual players too to participate in and get something out of it.
What's it been like to get to WPN status and work with Wizards of the Coast or reps of Wizards? Because this is an area that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, probably because people don't want to get in trouble. But like, what can you share about what it's been like to work with the mothership or Wizards?
So some people may have a different experience. Our experience has been absolutely fantastic. Have to get a huge shout out to our rep, Nick. He is awesome. Always just available on Messenger. Every time we need something, clarification, anything, we just message him and he's answering, helping. Really helped us get WPN Premium. A lot of good advice. Just feedback constantly. Send him pictures, send him a video. He'd give us feedback. We would take care of it. It's a tough process. I mean, it's not easy. You have a lot of things you have to do, and they're going to hold you to a high standard. But the help and support was absolutely there. Absolutely, it was great. And then, luckily, we get to work with Wizards on the event side too. We get to work with them there, and they're a great partner. They help partner and sponsor our events, and make the Invitational Series possible.
What's it been like to build that relationship with Wizards? Is it just the fact that you have such an attractive kind of flagship store by American standards and that they want to work with you naturally? Did you have to build a relationship over time? Like, just lay it out for me. Like, what's it been like to develop it?
You have to build the relationship over time, and they're interested in what you're doing. They see what we're doing, and they like what we're doing. They like what some other series are doing, and they really want us to be, bringing competitive Magic on the lower level, the regional level, yeah, to life. And without us, they'd have a hard time with it. So they do want to show us support. But you have to prove yourself. You have to run really good events. I have every event we run, we have 72 hours to submit a full report of every ticket that we sold, every person that played in the command zone, every person that played in every side event. And I compile all those numbers and send them off to the team. And then actually last week we just had Terren and I had a talk with our rep on that side, and we were talking about our numbers and getting season 4 out here soon, and continuing that partnership.
We get them our like social media numbers too for the weekend on different posts and things. So they want to see like what the visibility is like.
The social media sentiment report that they call it, but they want to see what the reaction is to our event on social media. You know, are people talking about it? Did they like it? Did they have a good time? Was there any negative feedback?
Yeah, and then I think the other thing that they like is our series really incorporates other local game stores. So we have many. I mean, it wouldn't really be right to call them like satellite stores, but they'll host invitational qualifiers, Apex invitational qualifiers. We call them AIQs, and they're just like 2-slot events that earn an invitation to our big. Last season it was a $20,000 invitational. So just I think the fact that we incorporate and we work together with many other local game stores, I think that makes it kind of more attractive for them to work with us, because then they kind of get to work with all of them too.
Yep.
Do you have any challenges working with Wizards?
Not really. So far, knock on wood, it's been good. Don't want to jinx it.
They're just pretty transparent with what they're looking for and things like that, and it's kind of a two-way relationship then?
Really? I mean, we just email back and forth, and every once in a while talk on the phone about things, and they just get back to me, and that's really about it. You know, we just talk about mostly what I'm talking to them about is what we need to do to get a Pro Tour invite on our series. You know, what did they say? They wanted to work with us for a season first. You know, we had to prove ourselves in season 3, and they like what they saw, and they're going to evaluate it here. We're anxiously awaiting the response as we speak. Yeah. So.
All right, I'm cheering for you, rooting for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be huge for our series, but something we're excited about. But we'll see if it's in the cards or not.
It's always so funny because you feel so deserving. You know what I mean? Like, you feel like we do a really good job and we're deserving of that, and the series is deserving of it, and you're just waiting for that, you know.
Yeah.
That you are.
I mean, I feel like in the world you just have to, obviously, first of all, I think you do have to believe in yourself more than anybody else. Like, you have to be your own champion, right? That's just the case for a lot of things in life, because you have to be your own, your biggest fan, right? And in this case, you guys are brothers, so you're fans of each other, and you're fans of, like, and there's people who are fans of Apex Gaming, which is great. But I think the other thing is just, like, I feel like also in general in life, you just have to, like, get to a spot where they're not able to say no. Like, you have to get to a spot where you're just eliminating all the reasons why they wouldn't give you a Pro Tour slot. It's just, that's just how the world works, and it's just about, like, proving yourself incrementally, step by step, with every audition that you get, right? I feel that's the case anyway. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I was just gonna say something that my dad would always say with coaching was just give them no doubt. You know, my dad he coached sports for years and years and years, but especially if he was telling us about working with, another coach or something, and we're like, oh, I'm not getting playing time, I'm not getting the touches on the ball I want or something. It was just give them no doubt, show them that you deserve it. Yeah.
Totally. Your dad sounds like a wise person who knows what he's doing. So, yeah. All right. So before we get into the coverage stuff, I do want to ask just one question about the kind of the what is it like to actually. This is not really a relationship with Wizards, but just like the nature of being a store and selling and carrying Magic product. Like, what's that experience been like? Like, because I feel like there's just a ton of discussions all the time on the internet. People like, what is the Magic market? Like, what is the secondary market? What is the secret layers, which obviously are not available to the stores? And what is it like to hold sealed product? Like, this is such an open-ended question, but are there just things that you can just randomly think about that you think that might be worth sharing? Like, what is the actual life of a Magic retailer like?
We might not have enough time for this question.
Okay, this is a 4-hour pod in itself, right? So you have to give me the condensed version.
We may have to come back and do another one. So the spectrum is so big here. I mean, you go from players and fan base, and we're all super excited. We can't wait to get our hands on the new product. We've been seeing the spoilers, and we're cracking packs. That's the high, right? That's the great side of selling Magic. And then on the sealed side, and then you got the other sealed side where currently right now what we're facing is everybody's saying is the overprinting, over release of all the products. And so now we're starting to see a lot of product where players aren't quite as excited to open it. My gosh, we just opened the product last month. I can't even buy this product. Now I'm upset. The players, I want to open all the products when it comes out. I want to be excited about it, and I don't have the money to do that. I can't open every set now when it comes out. And so then that's kind of the low side. What I've been kind of trying to get my own mind right on it and putting my my own spin is there's Wizards is still selling the product or they wouldn't be doing it. And what we need to remember is sometimes somebody else is enjoying it. And if somebody else is enjoying it, then that's fine. You don't have to enjoy every product that comes out. And maybe that one's not for you. Skip it. That's okay. I think the frustration comes from, especially somebody like me, I love to open sealed product. That's always been one of my fun things to do. Where I want to open every product that comes out. And that does tie up a lot of, personal income then to do that. But, just understanding that it maybe that set's not for you or, changing how you do it. But, they're printing the sets and the sets are obviously, some are doing better than others. Dominaria Remastered sat in our back room for a long time. Which on the retail side, that's what we face is making sure we order appropriately for each set. We order less now than we used to. We used to order quite a bit, and now we just can't order as much because it's just not selling. When there were 4 sets a year and 1 to 2 auxiliary products, we would sell quite a bit of sealed product, and now with the set releases as often as they are, we're just not selling as much. So
I don't know if it's too strong a word, but is it almost a gamble? Like you're basically having to play a lottery of like this new set that comes out, like how much do I pre-order? How much product do I stock? And is it going to over-deliver, under-deliver on expectations? Because I can see that if you don't have enough, that's not great. And also if you have too much, that's also not great. So does it feel like that? Like you're kind of having to consult like the Ouija board for like, what is this thing gonna be good or not? And then it almost like having, maybe it's from spoilers or like intel, like you have to understand or you have to have a sense for like, is this set gonna rock or not? And putting the right predictions in.
You really only have to answer that question though for sets that are limited print run. If they're not limited print run sets, you can just
totally
reorder.
True, yeah.
So you can keep your order where you need to be and just put in a reorder, Now the question on the reorder is you might not be able to get it as fast as you want, but that comes from building a relationship with your wholesaler and being a good customer and, being on top of their priority list and also putting those backup orders in as soon as spoilers come out or whatever if you have to. We still order a decent amount though, so it's just not as much as we used to. So like we have a pretty good relationship with our distributors and are able to kind of fix some of that. The limited run products or some of the, ancillary products that come out, those are the tough ones. Those are the ones where you say, Commander Masters or whatever, how good is it going to be? Am I going to need 60 boxes? Am I going to need 600 boxes? And sometimes you just don't know. I mean, it could be a slam dunk and, Time Spiral Remastered, we sold out of that in the first day. We got like 60 boxes in, I remember, and that was gone day one, and we never saw another piece of product on it. I wish I would have had 600. We could have sold them all. And you just don't know, You really don't know.
Does Wizards do anything to give retailers signals about how they think their internal analysis tells them how it's going to do? I guess maybe that's hard, right? Or that's fraught with challenges in itself too.
I think it's fraught with challenges. Everything I've seen in the WPN networks that I'm in is the risk of leakage, is far, more than what they would get from letting wholesalers know. Because they let the wholesaler know, hey, these are the cards that are coming out in this set, and then the wholesaler, or not the wholesaler, but the retailers were like, we're not buying this. That's not going to be good. And then players are like, why aren't you buying this? And we're like, well, it's because it's not going to be good. I could see that being a problem.
The old self-fulfilling prophecy, as it were.
Yeah.
What about just in terms of? Okay, this is me being mostly an outsider. Just the fact that you have a lot of people claiming that there's some sort of like on the street just consumer fatigue. Just let me be specific about this. Like people are saying I can't afford every set, which is objectively true on many levels. I can't buy all the cards that I want. Is there some? Are you seeing shifts in consumer behavior like over the past, I don't know, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months in terms of like how people have a relationship with Magic? Are you seeing people like just buy less things overall? Are you seeing people go after singles more as opposed to sealed? Or like, are there certain trends that, from your vantage point, that you're seeing that might be worth calling out?
As a store, we have to identify our markets, and so you have your different markets. You've got your typical modern grinder that is picking up singles, playing the same deck for year or two. They're not buying a ton of cards. And then you have your, I have people that come in and buy product that don't even play. They, every time a set comes out, they'll get six or more collector boxes of a product, and that's just what they do. They don't even play the game. So you just have to see what your player base is and what your market is, and identify who's going to buy what, and then kind of know who they are. Our commander players are a little bit more casual players. They like to open sealed a little bit more. They enjoy opening the packs and getting the one card that can go in their commander deck. So you definitely see that a little bit more. But over the last couple of years, though, you've definitely seen a downturn, though, of the grinder. They never were big pack opening crowd, but anymore they don't open a lot of packs at all.
What about the kind of the collectors, or as I like to call them, the whales? They're really the lifeblood that keeps Magic sales afloat. Like they just love gambling in the form of opening packs. Like there's a ton of people like that in China. I see stores like, right, yourself included. Like they just love the thrill, right? It's
Yep.
In China at least, where gambling is actually illegal. It's kind of like legalized gambling. So have they been spending the same, or have they also cut down, or is it more than you've seen? For your clientele, I should say.
It's been about the same, maybe a little less. The thing is, they just don't do it on every set. So when they see a set they like, they buy their product. If they're not interested in a set, or they don't like a set, then they don't buy it. But that's just the thing, is they have to, even they, I guess they can't buy every set. They have to cut some sets out. They just can't buy it every set.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit recently with Magic trying to hop on a little, some more like pop culture trends and things like that. There's been a little bit of an influx of, kind of whales or whatever, consumers just coming in from other markets a little bit, like Lord of the Rings and some of the other like Transformers and the anime crossovers and things like that. So there's been people that are like, I don't normally buy Magic products, but this one's Lord of the Rings, so I'm gonna spend some money on it.
Okay, so the multiple IP thing is working. Like you're seeing traffic or interest in Magic as a result of these other property, or fans of these other properties.
At
least a bit, yeah.
Yeah, personally, in our shop, we sold collector boxes of Lord of the Rings to people that neighboring businesses. So our building is, we have other renters. Neighboring business owners were buying some collector boxes of Lord of the Rings because of the the One Ring and the Soul Rings and all that was going on with that set. So there were people that were opening the lottery tickets, so to say.
Yeah.
This is a total aside, but as someone who played the original Middle-earth CCG in the 90s, I feel like this new Lord of the Rings set is just not even Lord of the Rings. It's just like a Lord of the Rings skin on Magic cards. But anyways, I digress. I'll probably cut that part out. Like, it's just like it's weird for me because now like Magic for me is fundamentally just about the mechanics and the framework of Magic. So it's like even if you put Sonic the Hedgehog on a Magic card, I would never feel like it's Sonic the Hedgehog. But I understand that others may feel differently, and that might be the first time they see Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know why I'm using this example. This just shows how much I live in the 90s. Like, I don't know, we're gonna have like anyhow. I digress. It's interesting.
I know what you mean.
But that's true. It's true. Like people are actually coming in because of these other properties, and more power to people and more power to stores. So,
yeah. I mean, Doctor Who too was one that brought some people in. That was another set that did that.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one because I'm not a Doctor Who fan. So, but I did watch the Command Zone year in review, and they said that Doctor Who kind of flopped. Like they said that it was designed very well as decks and cards, but there wasn't that much actual commercial interest. I'm not sure if like they're coming at it from their vantage point, or you guys saw that as well, where it's a very well designed thing, but there weren't that many people that were into it in total.
We didn't order a ton of it because I anticipated that it wouldn't be huge for us. But like I said, we did have some people come in that weren't Magic players that were like, hey, Doctor Who's in a Magic box. I want to buy it. And I was like, hey, awesome. We're here for you. That's what we do.
I guess my question is, the people that come in because of that property, for example, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I'm a Doctor Who fan. Do they actually end up playing Magic, or they just end up just collecting the cards? Or like what? I guess it's hard for you to tell because you just sell them the thing. But like, do they ever come back, or is it like a one-time thing? They leave with like a collector's box, or what?
So far, it's been a one-time thing. I don't know that any of the people that have bought that have actually converted into a Magic player. Personally, my hope is that they come into the shop, they see the cleanliness of our shop, the friendliness of our staff, and what we do, and then maybe they're interested, right? But it hasn't translated yet. It's just translated into a couple sales.
I feel like maybe there's been a few Magic players, maybe not so much at our shop, but just in general, like who kind of like they're a little bit of a disenfranchised Magic fan, but then they're also like big Lord of the Rings fan, or one of these other IPs, and then they kind of get back into it a bit because of that, or they get one of the Commander decks and they start playing again with their friends or something.
And
I know when Final Fantasy comes out, that's my jam. I'm all over it. They better have a Tidus. They better have a Cloud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to have the Final Fantasy VII characters. That's like that's got to be right.
Yeah.
10's my personal favorite. But
take my money.
Yeah.
Our manager has asked me to order all of the Fallout product that we can possibly get. He is a huge Fallout fan, and he's like, just I really, really, for his sake, I hope that set is fantastic because he's all in. I mean, he's gonna spend all of his money on it. I'm telling you.
He's tried to convince me to play Fallout so many times. He's like, just play Fallout.
Okay, so
I'll just watch you play.
Ways. Just want. Okay, yeah. It's a great series, and but I mean, to each their own, right? But I think I was just gonna say it's really interesting. You have that dynamic where you're sharing the building with people, so you kind of have to order product. If not for them, then at least like just make sure that. Anyway, it sounds like a really cool like close knit community, which is good.
Yeah, our employees are very I would say it's not like a normal like work relationship where you're super like corporate boss and stuff. You know, we mess around and we're very uncouth sometimes, but uh yeah, like we have employees who sometimes they just blow their whole check on Magic stuff. It's
We we call them free employee. No.
I'll just pay you in Magic cards. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not implying anything. But what's the craziest thing that one of your staff has ever done in terms of Magic spending or Magic shenanigans?
well, I think one time, yeah, I'll just say it. Jordan,
You don't have to use their names, but
It's
if you
okay.
want to, it's totally fine.
it's okay. Jordan, if you're listening, he like bought an entire, was it like Tron?
It was
Like,
Tron. I did.
and-
This is the story I was going to tell.
yeah,
So
and then sold it, and because he switches decks constantly, but he purchased the entirety of Tron and then sold it before it arrived, and then bought a different deck.
this is true.
He just
It is
switched.
true.
Didn't even play it
So-
once. He just switched.
Yeah. So when we have a policy, when we don't have the cards, we order them from either from TCG Player, Star City Games, Card Kingdom, wherever we can get the cards for our customers, so they don't have to pay shipping. So everybody puts their orders in. We go out and order all the cards and get them in for everybody. So whatever we were missing on Tron, Jordan ordered the entire deck and literally sold it to the shop before it actually got there. It was quite comical.
It's almost like a Magic Online rental service, except it's in real life. You just like loaning cards, and in this case, like it was even before it touched the ground. Like that's
Yeah.
there must be some sort of like Guinness record for this, right?
Yeah.
You guys probably have it. Yeah.
We do have kind of like, I don't know of any other stores that do this. I'm sure there are, but basically, if you have store credit with us, and you want to buy some cards using your store credit, like we'll just pull out the cards that we have, but then also just like place an order to Card Kingdom or wherever we can get them cheapest, TCG Player or whatever, and then have your whole deck or order like ready for you to pick up. People just like message us or whatever. But I think it's kind of a cool thing that we do.
It does sound really cool, if unusual, because it sounds like you guys not only just have a kind of a value to buy every single card, but you also sell every single card effectively, right? Because if it's
Right.
not available, you'll make it available.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the goal, is to make it a good experience for the customer either way, that they're going to end up getting everything they need.
Think about it logically. You might as well make it a good experience for the customer, because they're going to go buy the card wherever they're going to buy the card anyways if you don't have it. So if you help them out, why not? We're already ordering. We can save them shipping, whatever. Make it easier for them. And yeah, so it just kind of makes sense actually when you think about it, even though it kind of seems counterintuitive. Hey, we're buying from another store, but they're going to go buy from them anyway, so let's help them out.
I think this is a really admirable practice, is to try to think about it from the consumer's point of view, or maybe to borrow an Amazon term, like it's having a kind of very strong customer obsession or a very strong principle around that. However, I think that 99% of business owners just don't think like that. Like I mean, I've been in stores. I'm not going to name any names. I've been in stores where the owner's just too lazy to even get up and help me. Like, how did you guys develop this sort of set of values or ethos around Apex Gaming?
Yeah, that was one of the turning points actually. So I was in a store. I'm not gonna name anything. And I was trying to get a deck together before an event, and I just was looking for some uncommon. So I asked one of the workers. They were like sitting they were on the clock presumably, but they were just sitting at a computer, like a work computer, playing a game. And I was like, "Hey, can I get like this uncommon?" And they're like, "It'd probably be in one of those binders," and then just turned around and kept working. And that just kind of, that obviously that's not good practice. It's not right. And that just kind of flipped the switch for me. Like, I was already kind of wanting to do a story at that point with Kyle, and I don't know, it set me off of like, that's not how it should be, and I want to do things this way and do them the right way.
So it is kind of starting from like your viewpoint as a customer yourself. Like, what do I want? What do I not want? And just kind of just flipping it around. Like, this is how a business should be done, and just kind of modeling after that.
Pretty much. I mean, that sums it up. Just
Yeah.
this is the way it should be. I mean, we've taken our experiences, the good and the bad, and you just jam them into policies and procedures and make a store.
I also want to ask, like, how much of your activity, sales, and tournaments is around Magic the Gathering versus other games? Because I understand that there's also, you guys also do Lorcana and other things. Like, so what's the kind of distribution or split? Are these other games just as popular? Are they growing? Like, what's the situation like?
So our four main categories are Magic, Lorcana, Flesh and Blood, and Warhammer. And Warhammer has a pretty good following in our shop. This past weekend, I went down there and there was like 15 to 20 people in there playing Warhammer on Sunday, just having a great time. It was awesome. So we do a pretty good following, but I would say Warhammer's probably 10 to 15%. Flesh and Blood's probably 10%. Lorcana has been, because of the popularity from the releases, it's probably been closer to like 15% right now, and then the rest is Magic. And Magic is the huge chunk of what we do.
Okay. And I understand you guys are also doing Lorcana events, is that right? Or some sort of invitational series and such?
Yeah, that was the Lost Boys with Todd Anderson, and it is several other guys that kind of work on that with them. But they wanted to host a tournament and stuff, and so they did most of the legwork and advertising for that. And then we held a couple qualifiers for it, and then they held it's a really big names here. Frank Carson, Nathan Stoyer were here.
Brenda Candio.
And
They were all playing on the Lorcana side or commentating and
On the
yeah, this
Lorcana
was to
side.
play Lorcana. That was kind of the idea, was to get some of the biggest, like some big names in Magic to come and play Lorcana to kind of showcase Lorcana. Just 'cause, no one had any accolades playing Lorcana yet, obviously. But I mean, it was a really cool event. It was a lot of fun. But I mean, there's some definite hype around Lorcana.
And we're
as
talking
someone
about
who's
getting
never
some-
played the game, like what is it that attracts people, Magic players perhaps, to Lorcana? Is it a similar style? Are there certain aspects of it that make it appealing, other than the Disney IP, of course?
What attracted me to it was one of those games that's like really simple to learn, very, very simple mechanics, but then you kind of realize that the gameplay is like really complex, and there's a lot of decision making. Kind of a lot of it stems from the resource system of like, your inkwell, they call it, where it's putting lands into play, but instead you just pick one of the cards from your hand. Almost all the cards in the game, maybe like 80% of the cards in the game, can be flipped over as a mana source, basically. So that right there is a tremendous amount of decision making of which card are you going to ink out of your hand every turn. And then just it kind of has a Hearthstone vibe of like, you can either choose to go face, which is called questing, or you can choose to like play more defensively and challenge your opponent's stuff. So very simple mechanically, but then I think the decision making and stuff gets really complex. That's what I liked about it, anyways.
I just like the gameplay. I like the resource system a lot. I felt like it. Obviously, one of the big things with Magic, sometimes you can have perfect deck construction, a net deck that's won several events, and sometimes you just get flooded. Sometimes you just don't draw any lands, or sometimes you draw 4 of the same creature right in a row. And that RNG happens, but with Lorcana, it's just a little bit less because of the way the inking system works. There's extra cards you can ink, or so that's just a little bit attractive. And I look for us
So
to
it
have
sounds
some
more similar
tournaments.
to maybe Flesh and Blood in terms of there being less of like blowouts based on variance and just more like intricate strategic decisions that you have to make at every part of a churn or something. Like it's maybe going to what Terren said. It's simple to learn, difficult to master. Like it's just there's a lot of built-in complexity, but it's easy to at least pick up initially, right?
Yeah,
To
I
enjoy.
would say Flesh and Blood is quite a bit more complex up front, but they both have taken significant measures to reduce the amount of variance in terms of like make it a little bit more skill based. I mean, Magic can be very skill based, but there is a tremendous amount of variance in Magic versus I think the other two games have quite a bit less variance based on what I've seen. I don't play much Flesh and Blood. I've played it a couple times.
All right, so let's turn over to the coverage side. When did you guys first decide to stream tournaments? This is how a lot of folks like myself heard about Apex Gaming. Like, when did it start? Like, what's the story behind it?
From day one. we The dream was always to be a streamer. We're still trying.
Yeah, I mean, we've just always looked up to SCG coverage was one of the big ones, and of course, like the GP coverage and Pro Tour coverage and stuff. I was a big watcher of all of that.
Yep.
I loved all that coverage and stuff. You know, it's awesome to work with Todd Anderson now because I was like watching him play on the SCG tour for a long time. But when we started Apex, and it was like we had a tournament scheduled for March. It was like 2019. Was that when COVID started?
Yes.
And that, COVID hit, and literally it was like, everything started shutting down like right before that tournament. So we, had to cancel that tournament, obviously, and then couldn't hold tournaments for a very long time, of course. But we noticed in that time, Paper Magic started, obviously there was no Paper Magic coverage anywhere. So we were kind of like, what if we kind of fill that niche? Like, we know people are missing Paper Magic and want to watch Paper Magic. It's a totally different experience than watching, on people play MTGO or Arena. So we started just with just with a phone, bought like a little mount and started recording it. It was like terrible quality at first, but we sort of got some practice and learned things. And
remember when we get like 11 viewers and we'd be so pumped?
Yeah, I'll never forget the guy from Brazil was like one of our first fans, and
Predator.
Yeah, Predator was his tag. It was one of our first followers and first fans, but he's from Brazil, and we thought that was the coolest thing that someone from Brazil was watching us just play like Magic with our phone streaming it or whatever. But we ended up, we at this point we had a little bit of confidence with streaming stuff. So then look, all these local high school sports teams wanted to stream their games because they couldn't have an audience because of COVID. So then we ordered this like audio video equipment and started streaming their games, sort of like, contracting ourselves out to them. And then basically through all of that, we ended up, being able to pay the workers that helped us do it, and then buying the equipment, paying for it, getting our money back on that.
We got our money back for the equipment, and we paid our workers, and we gave all the rest of the money to the schools that we streamed for to replace their gates.
To make up for all the gate that they lost. That was kind of part of the agreement. But then, after that, basically as COVID was ending, we had all this nice equipment. We had like 4 pretty high definition Sony 4K cameras and some microphones and things like that. And, we just started setting them up. We rigged up we've had a few different setups, but the setup we have now is like a 2x4 across the ceiling with several cameras mounted to it. We have 3 feature matches. We have a camera in the commentator booth, and we have a couple webcams for the face cameras. Commentator headsets and mixers and switchers and a streaming computer, all that. So It's just started small and scaled up.
Definitely. We all have to start somewhere and kind of grow, and it's never an overnight thing. But I want to ask, like, what do you guys think at Apex Gaming? What do you guys think are the hallmarks of a solid production? I mean, just in general, like, what are kind of the ingredients that you know now, having worked on it for a couple of years? Like, what are the things that actually make it something that is compelling that people actually want to watch?
I just want to say Terren and Bricker are two guys that do a lot of our. They've worked really hard on our layout. I know Terren has put a lot of time into the Stream Decker and the buttons and managing it and how everything goes and the production. Terren he's switching between the face cam of the player and then back to the table and to the other face cam for the other player. Just trying to you know make it more of a production rather than just cards and we're talking about them, you know. So it always impresses me how they do that, and then I think the stream layout, the everything that they've done that way is really sharp and really nice. But go ahead, Taryn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. But I think if I could say three things, I think largely it's gameplay. Like I think the thing that viewers care about the most is just watching good gameplay, which sometimes can be out of your control. So we sort of, when we have the big weekend tournaments, we have some really good competitors. So we just make a point to get our talented players on stream, and players who are doing well in the tournament. And then I would say commentators is the other thing. And I think that's something that we didn't understand when we started, but really good commentary is really hard to do. You have to I mean, it's a talent. But
Yeah.
we've basically sort of contracted that out to Todd Anderson and Ross Merriam. And they come up and their commentary is top notch. They do a tremendous job.
And not only have they done commentary for us, but they give us pointers and they've really talked to us about that side of Magic, having previously worked in it and been in high level tournaments. They've really helped us and given us a lot of pointers.
Yeah, they've been a tremendous help. And then lastly, I would just say the layout, and the overlay, your production value in general, having smooth transitions. So we have something called a stinger transition where it kind of wipes away and the Apex logo floats in and things like that. And those are things that I've just kind of learned on my own just from YouTube and things like that. Made it in Adobe After Effects, and you don't want it to be distracting and in the way of watching the game or anything, but you definitely you want a little bit of smoothness, fading in between scenes, switching to player cams, things like that.
I think those three things are super solid. I'm wondering how you feel about the presence of a storyline or a narrative or some sort of thing that gets people invested. Because I think whether you're watching sports or watching a Magic tournament, this is something that Star City Games used to do quite well when they had the Players Tour. Do you guys think about that? Is that also maybe the fourth ingredient or the thing that's overlaid on top? I'm just wondering how you feel about it.
Yeah, I do think about that a lot. It's something that we kind of started working on in our last couple seasons, and Todd and Ross have been working on that with us. And they kind of do a good job with their commentary of just bringing it to the front of what the players are playing for, what they've done in previous tournaments, where they've faced off before, who won last time. They just do a tremendous job of just kind of off the dome knowledge, even if we don't have a bunch of statistics available or things like that. But we've worked before on doing player cards. We kind of pop up a card of some of our more prominent players on our series, and some of their accolades and things like that. But yeah, it definitely to craft a narrative like that and storylines of oh man, this guy was a long shot in this tournament, but now he's in the, semifinals right now. Like that definitely does a lot to engage your viewers and just retain viewership, but make just a higher quality product in general.
It's also a question I have, which is that there's often discussions or talks about how tournaments need to be, worthwhile for players to show up on, right? To show up in, to travel, to spend the time. The prizes and Magic players is all about EV, expected value. But I think there's also something to be said for just the ability to be on camera, the ability to be part of something, and I just hope you guys can comment a little bit on that and how you think that plays into Apex gaming.
So one tournament that we had, I randomly happened to have two $50 Amazon gift cards, and I just had them. Like, I don't know why I had them. I had ordered them off of like a credit card reward or something. And I had heard that we had two players that drove, one 7 hours and 15 minutes and the other was 6 hours and 45 minutes. Not together, separate vehicles. They drove all the way just to play at Apex because they watched our streams and wanted to play on camera. So I actually went out, I knew who was going to win because I said, but I said, all right, anybody that traveled over 6 hours, please stand up, and then they stood up. And there's actually a couple other people that stood up that were traveled right around 6 hours. And I said, okay, anybody over 6.5 hours? And those two were left left standing. I was like, I got a $50 gift card for both of you guys for making the trip for that far to be here. But that's what playing on stream, that's what some of those pools, they didn't drive that far just for a $1,000 tournament. They drove that far to play on our stream. That's why they were there, which was a really cool feeling, cool thing that they did.
Yeah, I think playing on stream is just such a intangible value that is added to a player's experience. Like it's a memory that they'll never forget. You can always go back and record the VOD and rewatch your gameplay for mistakes is a huge thing. I love to do that when I get on camera, even for our local FNMs. I always go back and watch my games for mistakes and stuff.
It's a little humbling.
Yeah, it can be. You get oh my god, what was I doing? But I mean, and kind of especially for players who are, if they're trying to maybe make a name for themselves and be content creators or something, that's where you can earn a lot of clout. Is you can, we have a decently big platform. We'll have sometimes up to maybe 600, 700 viewers for those weekend tournaments, and we can go up to 1,000, 1,200. And, someone like Ryan Hayes, TJ Radizak, the Abadi twins, those are some killers on our series, Dylan Ham. And, they already have a good amount of name recognition just from playing on our series. And, it was actually funny. I think it was Ryan Hayes was on a killer run at, which RC
NRG?
was it?
Oh, yeah.
No, he's been crushing it NRG too, but
yeah,
it was an RC.
Was it the Dallas one?
Maybe, but he was undefeated in standard.
He was undefeated day one.
Yeah, on the first day and stuff. But he was on camera a bunch, and people in chat were saying isn't that Ryan Hayes from Apex? Is that the same guy from Apex? So people, from Apex or in the RC stream recognizing him and saying that, which I thought was really cool. But anyways, that's kind of a long story, but I'm just saying the name recognition and that value for someone who's, if you're trying to be a content creator or a grinder, whatever, it's important. So
yeah, no doubt. I even back in the day when I played, the times I visited the US, I played I was on Card Kingdom streams, and I always went back and just watched the VODs of what it was like. It was, for me also, it was nice to show off my my foreign duels or whatever, German FPV duels, because I have them on camera.
Cool.
So it was very. I have a mostly German decks in Legacy. It's just something I do, even though I don't actually speak German. I just find it interesting to have certain collections, right? I'm sure a lot of players will have foiled out things or specific versions. It's nice to kind of showcase someone's kind of unique personality to Magic. Even if they lose on the stream or if I lost on the stream, like it's okay. It's just something. It's cool to have that, I guess. What do you call that? Like memorialized in some way, right? So,
Yeah.
Yep.
People definitely like to have their own bling and stuff with their decks when they play, and they show off a bit. Sometimes they'll try to get a cool playmat on stream or something, and it's like, no, you got to use our playmats. I've made a couple exceptions to that rule, but you got to use the branded playmats.
Sometimes you even get inappropriate playmats, and that's really
that
tough
can't
too.
fly.
But as long as you're using Apex, that's all good. So.
Yeah.
On that note, are you guys doing deck techs at all? Because I feel like that's another part of the prestige factor is when people get to do deck techs back in the old days. I'm not sure if you guys are already doing that or plan to.
We are not. Something that we've talked about and something that I would like to do is set up a room where we could do that, right? You could pull people in, record that in between, and then show it in between rounds. I think it would be awesome. We just haven't got there yet.
Yeah. There's actually something that in between rounds thing is a big challenge to Magic coverage, because sometimes you just get stuck with 30 minutes of downtime or longer, and it's just nothing you can really do about it. So finding different things to like retain viewers. The main thing we've done is going to a flashback stream, we call it. Just because that's a Magic keyword, but where it's just go to the previous tournament you had with the same format and just show the replays. But yeah, something like that is, I won't say it's like in the works, but it's something that we've considered, and we kind of did it before once, where we would just bring them into the commentary booth and do it live, which maybe we could do something like that again. I don't know. I have to talk to Todd and Ross about it, but let's see.
It's always tough though when you get random people on the stream too. Sometimes it's just chaos, right? So I'm sure you guys know better than I do, but I can often sense that when I try to like look at the behind the scenes. Like sometimes like weird stuff can happen, not always good. So you have to kind of control for those. It's
live.
Of things.
If it's a live
it's
stream,
live.
If you record it and put it on, it would be
Yeah, it's live and it's on our account, our Twitch partnered stream.
Right.
And
you
some people are just not great on
there
camera
and just like venting or tongue tied or dropping F-bombs, and like you don't want that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess to wrap it up, I just want to ask the two of you. I mean, again, maybe a simple question but hard to answer. Just like, what do you guys see as kind of the future vision of Apex Gaming? Where do you think it's going to go? You can answer it. Maybe we'll just do a roundtable. Like maybe we can start from Kyle and then Terren. But just like, from your vantage points, where do you see Apex going? Like, what is it working towards into the future?
So into the future, I see us continuing to do more of what we're doing. So starting with season 4 of the Apex Gaming Invitational Series this year, hopefully we get that Pro Tour. We just finished a renovation project on another part of our building, a 4,200 square foot event center. So we can now host about 300 players at our facility. So really looking forward to having that kind of space, and just being able to have awesome weekends of Magic. We always do our events because we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. We always do them as weekend events, and I would just like to see, this next year, season 4, do that.
For me, just utilizing that extra space. I want to, try to get a lot of attendance for season 4, hopefully, and our stream has kind of constantly been growing, and we hit some crazy numbers in season 3 on the stream. I think what was the peak we got up to, Kyle? Was it like...
It was 1,256.
I think it was 1,200 was our somewhere in there was like our peak. Of course, after like some big raids and stuff. But what's nice is, what we've noticed is every time we get raided, we're retaining a lot of those viewers. So
right. Right. So they're actually staying. That's the huge thing. The content is actually compelling and tangible. Sure.
Right. Yeah. Which that's the big. What that's telling you is that the content is there. So, and it's obviously a big thanks to our players and our commentators. But also our stream and our brand and stuff. So yeah, I want to grow the stream. I want to make it a big deal. Get some more big names out. Make it attractive to the really good players to come play. And hopefully offer some really good perks and rewards for the players who grind it out and do well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you both so much for taking the time today. It's been great talking to you two. And I feel like, obviously, we've only scratched the surface of Apex Gaming. We're going to have like a 10-hour podcast in the future or something. Or maybe if you guys really hit it big, we'll have to do a documentary. Like, like someone will have to show up with a camera and do what they used to do for the Pro Tours with Apex. I think that would be a really
that would be cool.
Interesting concept. Just kind of follow you guys around. Yeah, but thank you so much. I think I really want to say this. I really think you guys are like an amazing up and coming player. If you're not already there, like you're just really like one of the bright spots of American Magic and just Magic coverage in general. And I don't want to say American Magic coverage because you have somebody in Brazil watching you. So just promoting the game in a way that it should be, and just trying to have the right values for how to conduct yourselves, how to do business, how to have a compelling production. So thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having us on. It was awesome to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice.